No, I remember when McDonald's was the place you went because you didn't have much money. That was practically the whole point. You weren't going there expecting some incredible dining experience. You weren't expecting a waiter, a beautiful atmosphere, or some gourmet meal prepared by a chef. You went to McDonald's because it was fast, familiar, and most importantly, cheap. That's what made McDonald's work. But now I look at some of these prices and wonder what happened. McDonald's costs way too much. I'll put together a basic meal, a burger, fries, and a drink, and suddenly I'm spending an amount of money that makes me stop and think about whether I should even be eating there anymore. That shouldn't happen at McDonald's. The whole advantage of fast food was supposed to be convenience at a low price. If I'm going to spend serious money on lunch, I start thinking about all the other food I could get instead. That's the problem. McDonald's isn't just competing with Burger King and Wendy's when the prices get higher. At a certain point, it starts competing with diners, delis, pizza places, Chinese takeout, local restaurants, food trucks, and meals I can make myself. And that changes the calculation completely. I remember when McDonald's meant cheap food. Maybe that's why the prices bother me so much. I remember what McDonald's represented. McDonald's was there where you could walk in with a few dollars and actually get something. There were value menus. There were cheap burgers. There were inexpensive fries. You could order without having to mentally calculate everything before reaching the register. It wasn't supposed to be a financial decision. It was McDonald's. That was part of the appeal. There was something almost comforting about knowing that even if money was tight, McDonald's was there. You could grab something quickly without destroying your budget. Now I can walk into McDonald's and find myself staring at the menu thinking, do I really want to spend this much money here? That thought alone tells me something has changed. Fast food was supposed to be the affordable option. I understand that everything costs more. Rent costs more. Labor costs more. Ingredients cost more. Electricity costs more. Transportation costs more. Insurance costs more. Practically every business has experienced rising expenses. I understand all of that. But I'm looking at this from the customer's perspective. My money matters too. My expenses went up too. My groceries went up too. My rent went up too. My phone bill, it went up. My transportation costs went up too. Everything is reaching into my pocket at the same time. So when I walk into McDonald's, I'm not thinking about corporate operating expenses. I'm thinking about how much money is leaving my bank account. And when fast food starts feeling expensive, something has gone seriously wrong with the idea of fast food. Because what exactly am I paying for? I'm still carrying my own food to the table. I'm still throwing away my own garbage. I'm still eating food designed to be prepared incredibly quickly. I might even be ordering from a touch screen instead of talking to an employee. Yet somehow the bill keeps climbing. That's what makes it frustrating. The value is disappearing. Price by itself isn't necessarily the problem. Value is the problem. I'll pay more money when I feel like I'm getting something for it. If I go to a good local restaurant and spend more money, maybe I'm getting a larger portion. Maybe I'm getting fresher ingredients. Maybe somebody is serving me at a table. Maybe the atmosphere is better. Maybe the food feels like an actual experience. McDonald's was never really selling us that. McDonald's was selling convenience, consistency, speed, and affordability. Take affordability away, and suddenly one of the biggest reasons for going there disappears. That's where I am now. I look at McDonald's and I think, if I'm spending this much anyway, why not spend a little more and get something better? Or why not spend less by making something at home? McDonald's used to occupy this perfect middle ground. Cheap enough that cooking didn't seem worth the trouble. Fast enough that waiting at a restaurant didn't seem worth the trouble. Predictable enough that you knew exactly what you were getting. But higher prices weakened that entire formula. The app shouldn't be necessary to get a reasonable price. Another thing that bothers me is how much fast food pricing seems to revolve around apps, rewards programs, deals, points, promotions, and digital coupons. Sometimes people tell me you have to use the app. Why? Why should I need an app to make fast food reasonably affordable? I don't want to study McDonald's pricing like I'm analyzing the stock market. I don't want to download something, create an account, collect points, search through promotions, activate an offer, and strategically construct my order just to get a decent price on a hamburger and fries. I want to walk into McDonald's, look at the menu, order food, pay a reasonable amount, and leave. That used to be normal. If the good price only exists after I jump through a series of digital hoops, that doesn't feel like a good everyday price to me. It feels like I'm being trained to hunt for discounts. And sometimes I just don't want to do that. It makes me question every purchase. The psychological part of higher prices matters too. Once something crosses a certain price in my head, I start analyzing it differently. A cheap hamburger is an impulsive purchase. An expensive meal is a decision. That's a huge difference. If McDonald's is cheap, I might pass one and think, I'll grab something. Done. But when I know I'm potentially spending a significant amount of my money, suddenly I'm thinking about alternatives. What's in my refrigerator? Can I get a pizza? Is there a deli nearby? Can I buy groceries with that money? Could I get a better deal somewhere else? Do I even need to eat out? McDonald's doesn't want me asking those questions. The entire fast food business model works better when the purchase feels easy. Higher prices introduce hesitation. And once I hesitate, McDonald's has a problem. Because the longer I think about it, the less appealing the purchase becomes. I'm tired of everything becoming expensive. Maybe my frustration with McDonald's is really connected to something bigger. Everything feels expensive now. That's what wears me. It wears me down. It's not one hamburger. It's not one order of fries. It's not one restaurant. It's everything. I walk into a grocery store and notice the prices. I order food and notice the prices. I pay my bills and notice the prices. I look at rent and wonder how ordinary people are supposed to keep doing this. Then I go somewhere that historically represented cheap food, and even that doesn't feel particularly cheap anymore. That's when it really hits me. The inexpensive options are disappearing. People always say, just stop buying it. And they're right to some degree. That's ultimately what I can control. But that doesn't mean I can point out how strange, that doesn't mean I can't point out how strange the situation has become. McDonald's becoming expensive feels symbolic. Because McDonald's wasn't supposed to be expensive. That was the deal. Fast food is losing its identity. I think fast food companies need to be careful. There is a limit to what people are willing to pay for convenience. Convenience has value, but it doesn't have unlimited value. At some point, I'm going to say no. At some point, I'm going to look at a meal and think that is ridiculous. And once enough customers start thinking that way, the relationship changes. McDonald's spent decades building an identity around accessible food. People from almost every income level could eat there. Families could go there. Teenagers could go there. Workers could grab lunch. Someone with only a little money could afford something. That broad accessibility helped make McDonald's enormous. So when affordability disappears, McDonald's risks damaging one of the things that made the company successful in the first place. I don't expect prices from decades ago. Obviously, that's unrealistic. But I do expect fast food to feel cheaper than the alternatives. Otherwise, what exactly is the point? I'm starting to walk away. That's ultimately where I've landed. I'm becoming more willing to walk away. If I look at the price and it doesn't make sense, I'm not buying it. That's it. I'm not angry at the employee behind the counter. They didn't set the prices. I'm not expecting McDonald's to operate like it's still decades ago. I'm simply looking at what I'm getting compared with what I'm paying. And increasingly, I don't like the equation. McDonald's costs way too much for what McDonald's is supposed to be. That's the key. I'm not comparing McDonald's to some luxury restaurant. I'm comparing McDonald's to McDonald's. I'm comparing the experience with the identity the company built over generations. Cheap, fast, easy, reliable. The fast part might still be there. The easy part might still be there. The familiar taste is definitely still there. But the cheap part, that's becoming harder and harder for me to see. And without that, McDonald's just doesn't feel like the same deal anymore. I shouldn't walk into McDonald's feeling like I'm making a major purchasing decision. I shouldn't need coupons, reward points, promotional offers, or an app strategy to feel like I'm getting my money's worth. Sometimes I just want a burger, fries, and a drink, and I don't want to feel ripped off afterward. That's why I've reached the point where I'm saying it plainly. McDonald's costs way too much. And if the price keeps climbing while the basic experience stays the same, I'm going to keep asking myself the most dangerous question any business can make a customer ask. Why am I still paying for this?